Biotech is a topic which we all got to know on the back of last year's outbreak of the global pandemic, the COVID-19, and the development of the RNA vaccine, which was rapidly developed due to the thorough work put down in the years prior to the pandemic. But biotech is also central in the global megatrend of changing demographics and people living longer. And with that comes an increase in age-related diseases such as dementia, but also cancer and cardiovascular diseases. And with that, an increased demand for treatments, but also interest in the biotech sector. Welcome to this biotech webinar. Together with me today, I have Ulrica Slåne Bjerke. She is the portfolio manager of 2 equity funds investing in biotech. And Ulrica, how do you experience the increased interest in biotech as a sector, as an investment field?
So yes, thank you, Hebe. So like you pointed out, I would state, even though it's a bold statement, that biotech actually saved the world back in 2020. I think it's important to reflect over how the world would have looked like now if we haven't gotten the vaccines. So I mean, biotech was providing a very much needed solution to this global problem. And that is what biotech is doing every day, every year, and has been doing for decades, finding solutions to unmet medical needs. And of course, the interest in the sector increased last year due to that generalists and investors not normally investing in the sector realized that there's a huge potential of value appreciation in those companies that can provide innovations that are directed towards those unmet medical needs, and that they actually come with something that is a cure or a disruptive technology that significantly improves the lives for patients or families. So I mean, the interest in the sector increased, and it's of course also a long-term trend or thematic investment that investors, I believe, should be focused on.
And you're mentioning thematic investments. Some investors have already included some themes, some thematic investment in their portfolio or as an addition to the core portfolio, whilst some still find it a bit mystified, this saying about thematic investment. Perhaps you can help us demystify it.
Yeah, so I don't really see it as a mystery. Investing in biotech is investing in a growing sector. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for investors, we are always looking for the best investment opportunities. And we are specialist investors, yes, but you can draw a parallel to clean tech or to certain sustainability subsectors that have gained interest from investors lately. And of course, this is a sector where we see future growth. The biotech sector in itself is based on a very strong trend of innovation. We were able to map the human genome in 20 years back. And ever since then, we have used the increased knowledge about science and also technology, artificial intelligence, in a way that we today have a fantastic platform to work from in developing new medicines. So this is an innovation-based growing sector. So it's nothing mysterious about it. It's just finding the best returns for investments. And also, I would say, looking at the pharmaceutical market in itself, it has high barriers of entry. It has a good profitability, and it's a long-term duration of growth. So it's attractive for us as investors, and not a mystery.
That's good to hear. As an investor, there's a saying, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. And from what you're saying, I guess that very much applies to biotech as an investment sector.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So you need to be long-term. And when you say that, some investors would be scared off and thinking that they don't have time to wait for it. But you need to be long-term because you need to follow your investments and see them realizing in good value. But also, if it's volatile during that time, it's also an opportunity for us investors because we can increase in positions that are really attractive for us. And looking at the fund Arctic Aurora LifeScience, that is more than 5 years old, we have had the ups and downs in the market due to volatility, but it's over time, it's now up more than 75%. And it shows that if you are convinced in what you're doing, then you will gain a lot of returns.
And when you say you have had success with that fund, it's all about picking the winners of tomorrow, isn't it? When you're looking on a long-term perspective. But success in biotech, I believe, it's very much binary. It's either a success or it's not a success.
Yes.
But as
in a way,
in a way, yes. But where, besides being a successful company in your portfolio, how do you really gain the big returns? Because there are some really big returns or potential returns down the road, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, what you need to do is you need to find the companies that have the best innovations that really come with transformational treatments to the patients. And that is, of course, I mean, related to the pandemic, the mRNA vaccine companies, they came with solutions to this huge problem. And actually the value appreciation, if you just lump together Biotech and Moderna, those two companies, they increased in value more than $200 billion during those 2 years. So it's a fantastic increase in value. But it's not only COVID. I mean, we see that in many areas. We had one investment talking now in October. It's the awareness of the breast cancer, and we had one investment where we very early on saw for a very specific sub-segment of breast cancer where there was no treatments available before. We saw one molecule that seems to be working. We saw response in 1/3 of those patients of this subgroup of breast cancer patients. And we went in and we invested the first in 2016 for $270 per share. And in 2020, 4 years after, we got a bid on that investment on $88 per share. So the value appreciation went from 270 to 88. And that was all in relation to that this company was able to prove that they had a drug that helped women that normally wouldn't have had any alternative. Mm. So we are looking for companies that can develop drugs that significantly improves the lives of patients, but also, of course, in a commercial setting. We need to know that these drugs they are doing will be commercial, so we get the return. But investing in biotech is really investing for return, but you also invest in a way in a good sector. You provide to science, which is positive. So what we are looking for, to summarize, is companies that do have the best innovations. But we also are aware of the fact that it's biology, it's complicated, and there are risks connected to this. So you need to be diversified. Mm. So we always work with the portfolio that is very well diversified in those type of companies. You should not put all your money in one investment.
So what you're saying is biotech is not just biotech. There's many subsectors within biotech targeting different areas.
Yes.
We know that cancer, cardiovascular diseases, those are leading causes of death on a global basis, which I guess is why also oncology is a big field within biotech.
Yes.
But also we talked about dementia, but also diabetes as lifestyle related. Yes. And age related diseases, which we will probably see more of in the years to come. How do you take this into consideration when you are setting the investment strategy for the funds which you manage?
Yeah, so if you look at what's happening now in the healthcare area, of course, the aging of the population is pushing forward indications like cancer, which is an age-related disease basically. But also you mentioned the lifestyle-related diseases, where type 2 diabetes is one. But it kind of it's the same thinking, that we within those areas we identify this big medical need, and then we need to identify the best company involved in developing within those areas. But then there are also fields where there is difficulties to develop drugs, and then we try to avoid those fields, or subsectors where we already see good therapies. Then there is no use for us to spend money on another drug. So we go for the big needs, the big commercial values, and the best molecules.
And when you go for the best molecules, I guess that would not be possible if you didn't have that thorough both experience but also competence within your team.
Yes, it's absolutely necessary to understand the biology. So we are 4 people in our team, and we all bring different competences to the table. And if you are to invest in biotech, you need to understand the biology, but you also need to understand, you know, what a drug does in the body, and there how you actually develop a drug. And we have in the team, we have Torbjörn that has a vast experience from the pharmaceutical industry, biotech industry, started as a medical doctor, and knows this very specific speciality of actually getting a drug from an idea to the marketplace, with the design of the studies and the regulatory work and so on. But we also have specialists in biology, Daniel, who is a biotech specialist, and Mark, who is a pharmacology expert, understanding how to do drugs, pills, and so. And then you have myself that bring the capital market perspective and the investment perspective into the table. So investing in this sector, you really need to understand what you're doing, because it's a complex materia, and there are risks linked to this. So we need to understand what companies not to invest in and what companies to invest in, to be selective.
And for us that do not have that background, how can we succeed as investors? Can we pick single companies, or should we rather go with a more diversified portfolio, which you get by investing in a fund?
Yeah, obviously you need to be diversified, and either you can try to invest in all these names yourself, but then you kind of lack the expert knowledge. So I would really advise people to leave this field of investments to specialists like ourselves, and invest in a very well diversified portfolio. Also, I mean, looking at the geographical aspect of it, we invest wherever in the world we find the best investment. So we have a global perspective. We compare always molecules that might be in US with Europe, with Scandinavia, and we invest in the best company. We're having the best innovation. But of course, if you have investment and you like to follow this more closely, you can always invest in a couple of names that you feel you have a good relation to or knowledge about, and then complement it with our global, well-diversified portfolio. I think that would be really the best solution.
So a mix of both then.
Yeah,
some
could be if
follow.
you have an interest, or just leave it to the fund.
But that sounds very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ulrica.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in on today's Biotech webinar. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation and perhaps also taken away some learning from today. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.